wait.
Yeah, Tom Lozon with us. We thought you were mad at us, Tom. Oh my God, I mean, it's been so long.
No, you thought he was mad at you. I knew he wasn't mad at me.
At anybody. I don't.
I know you don't.
I know you don't. I just kind of plug along. It's all good. How are you?
We've been all right. We've been just incredibly busy.
Family is good. Of course, now with social media, even though, it used to be that when you didn't see people, you just didn't see them.
Right.
But you can still spy on them.
Yes.
So, I've been
Yes.
watching. You had your beautiful little girl and significant other down at the tree lighting.
It was
looks
amazing.
like you guys had a great time.
It was amazing.
Yeah, so I spy on the both of you.
It was incredible.
Yeah. Where were you when we were decorating, though? That's my question.
That's another thing. I know. I should have been there.
I was
Michael
downtown,
Booten
but I was
and,
only live.
Michael Booten and Mike Deering, man, they
kick
those
ass.
two.
Both of them.
Those two just get it done. Again, you follow people on social media and, here's Mike Deering, driving for Meals on Wheels, coaching football, taking kids to that kid just doesn't stop.
Yeah, I know.
Kid just doesn't stop.
And Booten, to be
he's such a great guy.
To be a man of that, let's be honest, to be a man of that stature with a big ass beard like that, and then to top it all off with the hat. I mean, that's being comfortable in your own skin right there.
Imagine how big his heart is.
It's very true.
And it is. Michael. Yeah. So Michael put out the SOS call on Thanksgiving.
Yep.
I get the text from Michael.
Yes.
You're going to help decorate. Tomorrow, aren't you? Do the polls in the downtown on Friday.
Raylene, did you get the SOS text?
No, I just went down to go live.
Yeah. If
I didn't get the text.
The more Michael knows you, the greater he will inconvenience you. So I'm like, how many are coming? I don't know.
Yeah.
Sad face. And
Well,
I'm like, oh God,
look at North Main Street right now. How amazing it looks.
It looks great. So I grabbed, I managed to grab Pete Coleman, and a bunch of people came down, and we got it done. There are 82 polls.
Yeah, that looked beautiful.
And it was not a nice day.
No, it was rainy, drizzly.
It was, it wasn't too bad. It started raining. It was raining early when we started, and then it kind of stopped while we were doing it.
Yeah.
And then it rained again. But no, you know what? It wasn't bad. And we got a system down. We loaded everything. If you notice, every other pole has, decorations like, balls and tinsel and things like that. And it's every other pole.
Yeah.
So every other pole is just simple garland with lights. And
who was the individual that said we need to do every other pole? Who was the artist behind this?
Oh, that was Tracy.
Okay.
Well, no, Tracy coordinated it, and then we had to come up with a system. So we loaded everything. It was like an assembly line. We loaded everything in the back of pickup trucks, and we had the flashers on. We're driving down Main Street, sitting on the tailgate, and literally, jumping off the tailgate with some garland, and we lay it at the base of the pole. So that was the first step, and then we had 3 teams with ladders, and
it's incredible.
Yeah,
and the merchants are just decorating. I mean, ours here at Aired Out is unbelievable. Thanks to Raylene.
They always do. You did a great
and
job,
Heather,
by the way, Raylene.
And Heather.
Yes, Heather Slayton.
Heather Slayton.
It's just nice that. Absolutely. Our merchants put a lot of effort into it, and I hope people notice.
Yeah.
And I hope they shop local.
Yeah. I mean, look at Nelson's
really,
alone.
Really important.
Bob, if you notice behind you is literally off your right shoulder, Tom, and folks can see it on the camera. He's kind of like bringing it out gradually. He's not just firing the big.
Well, and
the
he's
big gun.
the go-to for all the decorations.
Oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
If you need decorations.
And he was. So
yeah, that's right. That's right.
What we forgot zip ties, because you've got to zip tie the garland to the poles.
Yeah.
Run over to Bob's. We need 6,000 zip ties. And,
oh yeah.
And Bob's not taking anybody's money. He's like, well, what are you doing? We're doing the polls. Okay, here. Whatever you guys need. Just if I'm not here, just tell the girls that I said it's okay. And
yeah. Bob's amazing.
Yeah. That's what makes Barre so special.
That's right.
And I've always said this. It's when I served as mayor and I was on the Mayor's Coalition, we talk about charitable endeavors in our towns and cities.
Mm-hmm.
And Barre's always been that kind of community where people just rally so quickly.
Yeah, big time.
And, we're not as affluent as some communities, but people will literally, if they have $1, they'll give you 50 cents.
I know.
And they'll absolutely, there's no better place to live, in my opinion, than here in terms of if there's a community crisis or someone has a personal crisis. People are just there.
Yeah.
And they give when they probably shouldn't.
Yeah, true.
But they'll, everyone will give something. So,
Which reminds me, I spoke, and I haven't even had a chance to tell Raylene this. I spoke with Jason Fleury last night, and he and his daughter are going to be coming in here.
I'm all over that, baby.
This weekend, the council will
Early.
be doing the coin drop for
Yes.
the Christmas for Kids.
We're doing that on Saturday. I'm hoping, I realize people have busy lives, but I'm hoping to get the whole council out there. It's going to be like 50 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's going to be
right.
like it is today.
Sure.
So, I told them, you guys are getting off easy. Because I can remember days where,
Yeah, sure. Right.
it's literally the change, because the cars are warm and
Yep.
the outside is cold, the change is literally freezing in the pot.
Sure. Oh, yeah. I'm sure.
So I've already started making my phone calls, and as we get further into the program, I'll, there are local businesses and organizations that have been very generous and continue to be. So I've already, managed to raise a significant amount of money, and as we, after Saturday, when we get the coin drop or dollar drop, as I like to call it, not that we appreciate your coins, but we love your dollars.
Sure.
Once we get that total, we'll let people know how much we raised. And again, it makes you proud.
Isn't it great? Isn't it frankly fun to be able to come in, have a couple of live microphones, and be able to talk about how awesome our city is and our surrounding communities?
It is.
Isn't it incredible?
People, it's just a wonderful place to live, and you don't have to.
Tom, we used to do this on Froggy in the morning. It's almost like this. No one's doing that anymore. This is where it is right here. If you want to find out what's going on, and you want to get into some in-depth engagement of what's going on in our uber ultra local community, this is the place right here, aired out.
So you need to have Bob Woodard, who runs the Meals on Wheels program. You need to have Bob on.
Bob was on.
Yeah,
he's
was on, but it's been a while.
Yep.
Yeah, he just likes to stay in the kitchen and cook meals, but and some of the volunteers. So yesterday was Giving Tuesday.
Yes.
I couldn't work it out in my schedule yesterday, but we'll be posting on social media. A bunch of years ago, Karen and I bought a building on Washington Street. We partnered with a few people, and it was on the condition. What I let everybody know is that this building, any money that we make on this building, and eventually the building itself, will be donated to the Meals on Wheels program.
Wow.
So this year, and it's it's a great building with some great people, 4 residential units, commercial unit, and so anyway, we this year, so at 3:00 this afternoon, we'll be presenting the Meals on Wheels program with a check for $10,000.
Holy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I love that program, JD. Always have, and my appreciation for it goes back to when I served as mayor, and at the end of the year, around this time, they'd struggle to make budget, and they'd work really hard. There'd be, maybe a $25,000 gap that they would have to try to close. And if they didn't close it, it means that people don't get meals.
Right.
It's just that simple. Because they don't, they reimburse folks for driving, like gas and stuff like that. But, people aren't paid. I mean, Bob is, because obviously he runs that huge program. But if you look at their overhead, it's next to nothing. Virtually everything that people are donating or everything they raise goes to feed mostly seniors, but not exclusively seniors. And as I used to deliver meals, what really struck me was not only how appreciative the recipients were of receiving the meal, but also how much they just enjoyed a little bit of interaction.
Yeah.
So there's so much benefit to that program, because there have been occasions where someone who is scheduled to receive a meal, who receives it every day, doesn't come to the door. You know, something's wrong, and you know, and
that's
they have averted catastrophes by reaching out to the police department or reaching out to a family member and saying, hey, can you know, so and so, they didn't come to the door today, and they always come to the door. So there's just so much benefit to that program. And,
Tom, exactly.
And you know, seniors, pandemic was hard on seniors, and you know, for many of them, as that program continued and as Bob kept it going during the pandemic, for so many seniors, that was the only interaction they had.
That's
you know,
right.
they weren't going out at all for fear of contracting the virus and getting ill. So so it made us appreciate the program all the more. So eventually, you know, years from now, when the mortgage is retired, we will donate that building to the Meals on Wheels program, and if they continue to run it as we have, it'll generate around $50,000 a year for the program in perpetuity. So
That's amazing.
It wasn't hard, you know, when we did that with People's Health and Wellness. We followed the same model, but that's a little bit different model, and again, took on some partners, and you know, you'd be amazed how many people in Barrie are anxious to help.
Yeah.
And
reach
so
out
I
to,
just
reach
said,
out
look,
to
Karen,
Bob if you want to volunteer some time. Reach out to Bob.
You know, I mean, constantly looking for drivers.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there are some spunky seniors out there who really make your day when you visit, and they remember and you know, and they appreciate it. So
you're giving an example to seniors and possibly not coming to their doors and being able to alert authorities. The exact same scenario played out with my dad right here in Barrie City. So yeah, you're right. Hits home.
So so we'll be 3:00 today. We'll be meeting folks from Central Vermont Council on Aging who work very closely with the Meals on Wheels program and their senior nutrition program. And we'll be meeting Bob and folks from Central Vermont Council on Aging, another great organization that Karen and I are always supportive of.
Is there a press release anywhere on any of this, or did you just drop it here on the air?
We're a low budget.
Did you just drop the press release?
I just dropped the press release
into the
mic. There will be something. I'm sure there will be something, because the one thing that we want to do is, you know, first of all, we're happy to support them.
Yeah.
We live a pretty cool life.
If there's
Karen
a release on it, will you email it to me? Please?
Yeah. We'll do something.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, but I'm not getting in the picture. We'll have Karen in there with her pretty face.
Where are you going to present this check at 3?
It'll be right in front of the galley, right in front of the galley where they prepare the meals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right out front.
Right on Washington Street.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Just know, up the street from the library, just right next door to the library.
I see here that we have a wind advisory going into 10 p.m. tonight for some pretty strong winds.
We're going to have a lot of winds, but the good news is the temperature is going to be warm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a warm front. We've had, thankfully we've had a mild so far. Don't get used to it.
No, don't get used to it.
But we've had, fuel prices are high. But if you look at degree days, we've had a pretty mild December, and as we've talked about before, I do a lot of consulting in the petroleum industry, and that's really a good thing, because this year I'm really worried about our ability to move product.
Yeah,
to move fuel from the terminal to the bulk plants, and then from the bulk plants to people's homes. So this is really, it's not a good thing in terms of volume, but it's a good thing for the customers, and in some respects good for the distributors, because they're able to keep their bulk plants full.
Yeah.
If it was 20 degrees below zero, I'm not quite sure what happens. I mean, as I do the math on what, a week or so of 20 degrees below zero looks like with our current storage and distribution capacities, it's not a pretty thing.
Just got a comment here from Shirley saying, I lived in Barrie for many years, and coming in from Cabot, I was so impressed with this year's decorations. So it's nice to
Thanks,
see
Shirley.
stuff like that.
Thank you for the comment, and thank you for noticing.
Yeah. So,
and if you want to undecorate with us, just get a hold of me, because
Right.
yeah, there always has to be one killjoy. I think it was Hannah Lajeunesse. As we got all done and we were so damn proud of ourselves, and we're going to go have a celebratory lunch.
Yeah.
Hannah looks at all of us and says, "Of course, we got to
Yeah, take it
undecorate
down.
everything in a month or so."
Tom, will you and Booten, and of course Raylene will, I know, but will you guys get on my ass about helping that day? Because I'd love to.
Good.
All right.
We
me
we
in.
absolutely will. Deering was a beast.
Oh yeah, of course.
Mike Deering was just an
doesn't fool
animal.
around.
He's,
So
of course,
what?
you get older, you get up there in the ladder, and the ladder's shaking. Of course, the
Right.
ladder's on snow and ice, and I'm like, okay, great, taking one for the team, I guess. And
Yeah.
Deering, he didn't care. He's just running down the street with the ladder. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
it was like one of those fireman contests.
Oh yeah,
with
I'm sure. Speaking of Deering and Booten, these two guys, obviously city councilors. What happened last night? I understand you had a scout there, an Eagle Scout.
We did. Young man Preston, I hope I got his name right, because I'm horrible with names. But he came in, and he had come in earlier, at an earlier council meeting, with his entire troop. And this was in support of, the Boy Scout celebration that they were doing on Veterans Day. And he's a young man who has worked hard to earn his Eagle designation.
Wow.
And that's a big deal.
That's a lot of work.
That's really a big deal. And if you look up Eagle Scout, and you look up presidents, and you look up, I'm absolutely convinced. I was not an Eagle Scout.
Right, but just successful people in general.
Successful people in general. And, it shows a commitment. And in order to earn your Eagle badge, you have to do a significant project.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, he didn't actually mention what his project was, but, it just says something about that young man. And the fact that he came back to the council meeting, he had handwritten. So his ceremony is on the 17th of December at 11 a.m. I believe it's at the Masonic Temple. And he had handwritten for every counselor, the mayor, manager. He had handwritten, clerk, these invitations to his ceremony.
Wow.
And he came back to the council and said, "I just wanted to invite you," and proceeded to hand out all of these things. Karen is great at that. When people do those handwritten notes, I am so impressed.
Big deal.
Like, I aspire to make, and this is a crappy excuse, to make more time and say, well, I should handwrite more thank you notes. Judith Miles, we talked about Judith very briefly at the council meeting. Judith sadly passed. Judith was famous for handwriting notes to people. And matter of fact, the manager had brought it up because he had never met Judith. And Judith hand wrote a welcome card, and Judith would always write a fairly lengthy note whenever she wrote to you. And, I was on the receiving end of many of those notes, over the past, say, 15 years. And one thing that I said is, there would be times where you're just like, I don't want this job. I don't need this job. This sucks. Yeah. And you would get one of these uplifting cards from Judy saying, "Look, I appreciate your service, and I appreciate this." So just a really, really special lady. So
And that's when you'd say, shit, here I am.
Yeah.
Couple more
years
in.
It's kind of funny, JD. And then and then you understand why you do it. Sometimes you lose sight of that. But when you get those notes, or when, in those moments where you've made a difference.
Right.
One of those moments was Friday, where we didn't have volunteers to decorate the streets. And it didn't take Michael Booten very long and Tracy very long to get a bunch of people together, and pow, we got it done in 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
And those are the moments where you look at, Saturday night, looking at I had a little bit of an emergency. I was on my way actually to the tree lighting, and I had to detour. I had a building that had an issue, so I had to detour and take care of that. So I missed the tree lighting, but I drove down both ways. I saw it on social media. what an incredible event. When I drove down, I was amazed at how I thought the parade was starting.
People.
There were so many people on Main Street. I'm like, okay, did I just drive into the middle of the parade?
Oh, yeah.
And I couldn't believe the number of people on Main Street. Everyone had such a great time. So, it's those moments that make you just appreciate this place.
And the live music and the hot cocoa. I mean, it was all just wonderful.
It was all phenomenal.
And thanks to the fire department.
Yeah. So anyway, I ended up. The 17th of December is Preston Day in the city of Barre, in honor of him, earning his Eagle designation. And I just let him know how impressed I was that. Sometimes organizations like Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, sometimes those the young men and women who participate aren't always held in the highest regard by their peers.
Mm-hmm.
And I just let him know how much I admired his commitment and his service.
Mm-hmm.
It says something about him. And he truly, JD, he is learning skills that are going to last him a lifetime.
Yep.
And they're going to make him successful.
I remember when I was a kid, every time that I got anything from any relatives, I had to write a handwritten thank you note.
Yeah.
And Mom she just
good
would be on. Oh, God. Oh. She'd get on me. But, it's impressive.
Miranda is great about that. She's always writing me little notes. She's, always sending me handwritten cards. Always.
Not just
always. And her cards are never, it's never the stock, crap 59-cent card. She'll always go for the pop-up cards and the one with little wooden figurines on it. And, she really, yeah.
Whereas there's a lot of kids that just shoot over a text.
No, that's not her style.
Yeah.
No, she's.
But then you got to get the envelope and the stamp, and then you got to bring it to the post office.
It's worth the effort.
I get it. Spend the 50 cents. Keep the post office, and I want to do something. Speaking of post office, I'm all over the place. Sorry about that.
No, that's
it's
right.
just me.
All right.
But I want to do something. The gentlemen who deliver our mail. And packages and things are just so awesome.
Yep.
They're always so friendly and so upbeat. And I want to do something for them. I want to do something. And we all know them. I mean, you know them by name. Yeah. And, the people who work, imagine what they're going through right now in the holidays.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
And
And,
they're always so friendly and helpful and hardworking. I want to do something. I don't know, buy them all a beer or something. But I got to organize something just to say thank you.
Yeah.
Because, for a lot of people, especially people who can't get out of the house, the ability to receive mail and packages, it's really important.
Yeah.
And they are very, very short-staffed.
Yes, they are.
And really struggling.
Yes, they are.
But but you know what? They still get it done.
Yeah.
My
every
postman.
Day.
Yeah, might day or two delay, whatever.
Yeah. It was after 9 o'clock when they came to my house.
Oh, yeah. That's
night before last.
That's not unusual. It's not unusual at times for, our postman to show up with our mail.
Yeah.
Normally I would say it's noonish, 1 o'clock. It's not unusual if he had to take somebody else's route.
Yeah,
it's not unusual for him to show up at 9:30.
That's right.
And of course, you see the light go on out. The motion light goes on outside, and I notice the mail truck. And I always just, if I have a moment, try to say hi.
Yeah.
And and I always let him know I appreciate you, and and he's always happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He doesn't I'd probably throw the mail at people here's your freaking mail.
Sure.
I'm
nail
going
them
home
with
and
it.
going to bed.
No, and they're always so damn happy. It's So I admire people who, I'm really aspiring to be one of them, but I admire people who, if they're under pressure, you don't know it, you don't see it, you don't feel it.
So, Tom, also last night, at city council meeting was a lot of discussion about the budget.
Yeah. Well, I'm not bored by it. I think we're going to have, so we've had our budget presentations, and now it's in the hands of the council. it is the manager's budget, but and I can already tell, like Steve McKenzie, Nicholas is going to be, it's going to be a collaborative process.
Yeah.
Technically, if you look at charter, the manager can simply hand the council the budget, say, here you go, here's the budget.
Yep.
And council really doesn't have, by charter, any input at that point.
Yep.
It's the manager's budget. Well, that's never been our style. Our style has always been a collaborative approach because people are going to have suggestions, and I can already tell that Nicholas is going to take that approach, as well. So, but we have to have a starting point,
Sure.
And we have that. And I've already got some items highlighted that I want to have. I want to have a discussion about those items and the direction the city is heading in. I don't have a firm grasp on capital yet. As you know, we passed a local options tax, so this will be the first full budget year where we will receive an estimated $750,000 from our 1% local options tax. It was implemented in October of this year. And remember, we're June 30th year end, so we haven't
750.
750 is the estimate. We'll have to see if that holds up. But it's JD, it's going to be a chunk of money. And typically, our paving capital streets fund, give or take, we allocate. Voters have always been generous, and they have allocated about $500,000. So, that 750, because we have pledged that the 750 will go for that. It's really going to put our Capitol Street Sidewalk Fund kind of on steroids. And, I know we have a long way to go. We have a lot of projects that we have to do.
We got a main water
But I want to
line.
have a good, robust discussion about that. And just, fees. We've got some new fees in there, some stormwater connection fees. Again, I'm not opposed to it, but I want to have a discussion about it. They are proposing a 20% increase in the apartment fees for landlords. Currently, those are $55. They're proposing to raise them to $65. I want to have a discussion about that because originally that was simply a fee that was assessed to cover inspections. So I want to have a discussion about that program in general and whether we're putting too much on the backs of landlords, because all of these fees just trickle down to the tenants. So I pointed that out to the council, and I said, a 20% increase, there's no other line item that went up even close to that.
Yeah.
And so you're proposing a 20% increase, and really all you're doing, what choice do the landlords have?
Right.
They're just going to pass those increased costs, whether it's property taxes, whatever. They're going to pass those on to the tenants, and we have to be mindful of that because we've got rental programs that are stopping because the state no longer has the federal funds to fund them. And we've got high cost of it. We've just got a lot of pressure out there on folks who are renting, and even even those folks who have been renting and they had hoped to make that jump into home ownership. Well, now we've doubled interest rates, and those folks who were on the cusp of being able to make that jump, they just took it on the chin. Their potential mortgage payment just doubled. So, we just got to be mindful of all that. It's going to be,
if you can even find a house for sale.
If you can even find a house, they're still out there.
Not many.
They're still out there. Yeah, you don't see a lot of activity. I was talking to a realtor the other day. You don't see a lot of activity during the holidays. People don't want to sell. People don't,
Right.
It's the holidays.
Right.
Who wants to, hi, we sold your house. You're closing on the 15th. So take your Christmas tree down. So you don't see a lot of activity. And then in January, it bumps back up again. And you see a lot of January, February is actually one of the highest months in terms of real estate sales and closings. It's one of the highest months in Vermont.
Nicholas was in here Monday morning with us.
Yeah, he's awesome, isn't he?
It was great to have him on the air, and
Good.
he spoke very highly of you and the council.
No, he didn't.
Actually, he really
Of
did.
everyone.
Yeah, everyone.
But he also noted.
I bet his mom.
He also noted that when he was interviewed by community members, and not. He was shocked to know that it wasn't personnel or the council, or that the majority of that was done by the community, and that there said a lot to him. It spoke volumes to him.
Sure.
And probably when he's creating these budgets and he's thinking about that also, knowing that
Oh yeah. He said this
it's
ain't
a
no
community.
New York City.
It's not. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got.
I mean, it took what, 8 months to find him something like that.
It took a while,
And he also talked about the shoes that he's got to fill here, and gave
Very
some nice
humble.
props to Mr. McKenzie.
yeah,
That he's
tough shoes to fill because Steve. Actually, I had lunch with Steve last week. I haven't seen Steve since he left as manager.
So you got
Hadn't
some
seen him.
more scruff going than he already had.
No, he was looking great. Looked the same. Actually, a little rested. Had worked on a project at the house. Claudia, kept him busy over the summer, and I'm hopeful. I think this is nothing Steve said. This is just me being me. Steve likes to stay busy. And I think now that he doesn't have a patio to build and the weather's getting colder, I think he's going to get a little bored. So I'd like to see Steve return to service, municipal service on some level.
Wow.
The manager thing, don't get me wrong.
So
I am
you're-
wholly supportive of the management thing. Manager thing that is light years behind him that will never, ever happen again.
Yeah.
But he's a talent. I mean, in terms of, he's a PE. He's a designated professional engineer. So when you look at projects that city has to come, there is a place for limited service. It would never be full time. Claudia would have a hitman chasing me down if that happened.
Well, she may have one now.
Yeah.
After
Right, you
just
never
said-
know.
No. She is a saint, and again, it's funny because as you get older, you do think about retirement. I think about what might it look like.
Yep.
And it scares the hell out of me. The thought, it's like, okay, but if,
I think you're going to go out with your boots on, Tom.
I think so.
I think so too.
I don't think I'll ever see a Social Security check.
No.
And that's okay. But you think about, well, if I'm not active mentally and physically, do you sort of waste away? And so I'm pretty lucky that I still have plenty to do. And so even retirement, Karen just laughs about it, and she's like, well, which job?
Yeah.
You have like three of them, so which job is it that you're
Exactly.
retiring from, and does that mean that you're only working 60 hours a week instead of 80?
Right.
And I don't know. For now, we're just going to keep plugging away the way we are.
One of the things that we talked about with Nicholas was just the concept of relativity and kind of talking about New York City, but also Barry. My God, the difference. But he was like, you know what? Shit is serious here in Barry, and even though the numbers are they're not in the billions that he was dealing with in New York City. The passion is massive here, and he really understands that.
Well, the concept, and I think probably what he's already learned.
He also
Nicholas
said
is
we
a pretty,
can't-
pretty smart guy.
He also said we can't afford that $30 million garage. So,
He knew that. He knew that right from the get-go. But I think what Nicholas is going to appreciate most about the job is the ability to affect change. People have talked to me about, well, run for this, run for the Senate, run for governor, run for,
Sure.
The wonderful thing about serving locally is you can affect change.
Yeah.
You're not, in some elected offices, holy cow. And it's a great system, the system that you have to have the legislative branch come on board with you. Look, that's all a good thing. But at the local level, in order to affect change, all you need is the voters and the council behind you.
Yeah.
And you can affect immediate change. And that's what I've always enjoyed about municipal service is if someone has a problem, you don't have to go through all these layers of bureaucracy to solve it. You can't always solve it. But when you can, you can usually affect that change, literally in a matter of days.
It feels good.
It does. It does. And you're dealing with people that, locally you're dealing with people that you really know well.
Yes.
You may serve in the legislature, but you don't see that guy from Bennington or
That's
Derby.
right. That's right.
You know him, but you don't know him
Right.
because he's not, a member of your circle.
Sure,
Well,
sure.
Berry City is, we're just a few square
tight.
miles.
It's
It's
tight.
just one big circle, and everybody knows everybody.
That's right. It's 9:37. We're going to stop down for a second and just give a salute to one of our presenting sponsors, Giroux General Transport. Raylene and I are constantly talking about how the demand has never been higher than it is right now for commercial drivers, not just nationally, but especially right here locally in our county and all of Vermont, all of New England, really. But we need more drivers moving more supplies. I was reading last night about the possible pending rail strike that might be soon coming.
That will be a disaster if it occurs.
Absolute disaster. They were just saying, in what I was reading, that it would be a $1 billion hit to the national economy.
Oh, anyway.
In the first week.
Yeah.
The first week.
Yeah.
And right away, of course, I'm thinking about truck drivers. And
Well-
I'm like, what if they don't? Look at all the different problems we've had. We've got all of the supplies sitting there. We can't move them. Now we may not even have supplies to
Right.
move.
Right.
I mean, this is crazy.
And, well, it's going to create demand. I mean, there will be, if that occurs, and I really, the optimist in me says that
they got to figure it out.
that everyone, the workers' management, that everyone, government, knows how high the stakes are.
Right.
And so there's always, in any negotiation, whether it's with a local union or a national union, there's always a bit of posturing.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, everybody knows what's at stake, and everybody's trying to get the best deal they can. But
Yeah.
they know that calling for a strike is kind of going nuclear,
Yeah, it
especially
is.
this time of year. So.
Yep.
And again, going right to, there is a lot of propane and fuel oil that is shipped by rail.
Right.
A lot of it. So,
Yeah.
a strike. I'm hoping that we can just avoid it. I've tried really hard not to focus on it because
That's
it
right.
bums me out.
Yeah. Well,
That's
Giroux-
frightening.
and Giroux
And
General-
Giroux, they do a great job. I
oh,
mean,
they're amazing.
look, they need more students, and
They
if
do.
you're, just great people.
Raylene, next class coming
February
up
6th.
February 6th for Class A and B CDL. They've been full for months.
Yep.
They've been booking out months ahead. So if you are even remotely thinking about being a commercial CDL driver and you want to get in on this February 6th class, if they're not already full, they're probably going to be soon. So 802-279-3325. Find them on Facebook too.
And
Yeah.
in the interim, if you need something, if you're missing something, an endorsement, they do offer classes here and there. They just finished the hazmat training, which you have to have that training in order to go and test at the DMV.
Right.
So,
Which is
just
kind of a new thing.
Right. Call Tracy and find out if she can help you in some way. Get what you need to get your endorsements, get your license. You may be going from one position to another. Maybe you were driving plow truck. Now you're going to drive fuel truck. You need, different endorsements. So give them a call and they can help you out.
I'll give you the office number here. It's 476-4679 right here locally in Barry on Bolster Road. So, again, 476-4679. Get in touch with them.
And if those classes do fill up, just get on the list for the next one.
yeah,
you know?
right.
Don't put it up. It's a great career. On average, right now, truck driver, full hazmat endorsement, starting salary is around $75,000, and you're home. You don't. It's not.
It's amazing.
You're not. I mean, you can if you want to. If you
Yeah.
want to be. Bellavance certainly has. They have more long haul truckers,
Yeah.
but the companies, most local companies, you're home, every night.
Sure.
It's your normal. It's not always an 8-hour job.
Right.
Sometimes it's 6. Sometimes it's 10. There are limits to how much CDL drivers can drive. They limit their number of hours and miles and rest periods between hauls so that they're safe.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's not like it used to be.
Right.
And I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to sit in like some of these newer trucks.
Yeah.
They're very different.
Amazing.
I mean, they're automatic.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
and I'm not saying, listen, it's not like, okay, anybody can drive it. No, not at all.
Sure.
You need training, which is why we have professionals like Drew.
Right.
But it's just a very, very different profession than it was maybe 20 years ago.
All right.
So, yeah, so, hey, if you're looking for a bump up in your career, give them a call.
Well, I want to give you a heads up. We're going to be talking about Salvador and Babbitt here in a second. But what else happened last
Yeah,
night?
we can't drive trucks.
No, you
Oh.
can't. No, you can't.
What else happened? Well, we made a transfer from the Brusa Trust
Okay.
to support Capstone and to support their fuel program. That was
Nice.
really important. We allocated $6,000 from ARPA funds, and there's a little bit of detail that goes with that story in support of the warming center at the Aldrich Library. And there were a lot of questions from the council. I think some of the questions were well received, and I think, look, the job of any counselor is to ask questions. Mike Booten asked questions. Mike Deering. I mean, every counselor had questions. I had questions. Originally, they wanted to take the $6,000 from the general funds, and I started questioning because last year $17,000 was allocated from ARPA,
Okay.
and they only spent $4,000. There were just issues getting the program up and running, and staffing issues getting people to staff it.
So what
long and
happens
short,
for that?
well, there was 17 allocated, and we've been carrying that $17,000 as an adjustment to the current ARPA fund balance. So as I dug down into that, I had concerns about taking it for the general fund for a few reasons, not the least of which is how our charter allocates our general fund balance. But as I started talking about the ARPA funds, I said, well, wait a minute, I think the questions that Mike Booten had were related to, they were calling it an emergency allocation. And Mike Booten was simply observing, well, didn't you know winter was coming? I mean, kind of happens every year. And there were some people who got on his case a little bit. I think a bit unfairly. My suggestion was simply, as I pointed out to council, look, I'm not hearing any bad news here. The Interfaith Council, which is a group of churches and clergy in the area, they've offered to fund half the cost. So that half of the $12,000 cost, they're taking care of. So first of all, from the city of Barrie's point of view, we just doubled our money. We just leveraged, which is what I always love to see. I always love to see if we're going to spend money from a fund, I'd like to see some leverage. And so we did. We leveraged $6,000 into 12. It is a successful program. And I said, well, wait a minute. So you allocated $17,000 last year. We've been carrying $17,000 as allocated. You only used $4,000. Leaving 13, you only need 6 tonight, leaving 7. I'm like, so, what's the problem? The problem, there, in my view, there was no problem at that moment. Now, going forward, I listened to what Mike Booten and Mike Deering were saying and others, and I said, my suggestion is that we either work this into the library budget. So let's make it permanent. If we're going to, I don't have an objection to operating a warming center in the city of Barrie. They have one planned for Montpelier. I don't have an issue with that.
Yep.
But again, rather than, oh, it's December, it's an emergency, surprise, it's getting cold.
Right.
Can we work it into the budget so that we're not having this discussion, so that
And
there
how
can
was that
be
received?
Well, it was well received. Everyone generally agreed that that's what we should be doing. So council asked good questions. They asked the questions that councilors, in my opinion, are elected to ask.
Okay.
And we allocated the $6,000 from the remaining ARPA funds, still leaving a balance of $7,000. The Interfaith Council is funding half of it. It was a win-win-win-win all the way around. We just had to get through the tough questions.
Okay.
So we did.
You guys had a lot to get to because there's been a few Tuesday nights where we've had enough.
Yeah. We went until about 10 o'clock. Went until about 10 o'clock last night. The budget, we were talking about the public works budget, and that elicited quite a bit of discussion because, again, we've got ARPA funds. I don't know if you noticed, the state just announced another $40 million in funding for municipalities, for nonprofits, for for-profits. This is related to the state ARPA funds that they're distributing. So, I think what we're all feeling. My concern. I'm just getting antsy. I don't feel like we're going. It doesn't feel fast enough to me. It doesn't feel like we're rolling out, like we're planning adequately for the volume of projects that I think we can do if we're going after some of this $40 million.
Right.
And
winters are long, but not that long. And pretty soon it's going to be summer. We're going to be shifting gears, and there's probably going to be more chatter about the jail branch project. What's the how much discussion? How much of the Barry Auditorium is falling into the discussion of ARPA?
Well, I mean, there has
we talked
been,
about this with Nicholas the other day. Monday.
There has been a proposal to use some of the ARPA funds to update the auditorium and to update the complex. I'm not quite there yet, but I find the proposal interesting. I mean, JD, I like projects that leverage funds. Okay, sometimes you have to spend money on something and there is no return. Or sometimes it's kind of an intangible return.
Gotcha.
Spending money on Christmas lights, $5,000 on Christmas lights for the downtown. I think there is a return, but it's intangible and it's hard to measure.
Well said.
When there are hundreds of people attending the tree lighting ceremony and people are telling me that, I drove down into downtown Barrie and holy cow, it took my breath away and it made me feel good. Okay, those are obviously intangible benefits, but when it comes to spending ARPA funds, I'm going to be really focused on projects that produce a return. Whether it's, hey, we're going to do some infrastructure, we're going to create 50 building lots, because right now we're collecting $10,000 in taxes total on that land. But if we invest in some infrastructure and assist with housing, well, now we've got 50 building lots on which we're collecting $70,000 in taxes instead of 10. So we're collecting $60,000 more. So on our $1 million investment, we got a 6% return. I'm going to be looking at that's how I'm going to be looking at it.
I hear. And go ahead.
I was just wondering what your thoughts were about fixing the treatment plant and that smell that everybody complains about, and them worrying about it depreciating their home values and things like that. And
we got to fix it. We've got to get to the bottom of what's causing it. It hasn't always stunk.
No, it's only been the last couple of years.
It's kind of like your
3
house.
years.
If all of a sudden you notice a stink in your house, okay, either JD came over to visit or you got another problem.
Well, and we did talk about last night that DPW Bill did talk about the fact that people are flushing these wipes now and stuff that are causing problems, and maybe people should not do that anymore.
I just
flush them? Yeah.
I just feel like because of the holidays and everything and Christmas vacation, I just feel like I need to say, Tom, shitter's full. Shitter's full. Come on, Raylene.
So, look, we can fix it. We have to get to the bottom of it. I'm not sure, there are in fact other funds available. So I'm not sure that ARPA is the only answer. So obviously we've got to come up with an answer. We can't. It stinks.
Yeah. It does stink. And,
fortunately, I live on the other end of town, but I
right, but you go down there, and
well, of course I do.
That, right,
it's
not like you don't drive
and
that
man,
area.
Even in the wintertime, like now it used to be summertime. If you had your car windows open and you drove by and the conditions were just right, you'd be like,
Sure.
Okay, I'm used to that smelling callus when they manure the.
Right.
It's like, but
when
what
they
the
spread in
hell
the
is
fields.
that? And now in the wintertime, if you've got the fresh air vent on, It like fills your car, and then you're. So look, I'm not making light of it. It is a serious issue because obviously, it means that something is going wrong with our treatment plant.
Is it the
not
bladder?
functioning.
Is it the bladder that's not functioning?
We've replaced the digester cover and thought it was that. We just got to work a little harder.
Okay.
We got to work a little harder. The people who live and they're still supporting us and supporting our budgets and volunteer. Come on, they deserve better than that. They've been
And they are
really,
working on it. They are trying.
No, and I don't mean to imply that we're not, but I think
Sure.
my comment to Bill Ahern is, look, I know you're trying really hard, but you're gonna have my support when you roll these projects out. We are going to figure a way to get them done, whether that means we have to use ARPA funds or if that means we have to bond through the enterprise fund. Your job is to come up with a solution, and you're working hard on that. Our job at the council level is to make sure that the resources are there to get it done.
Just shifting quickly back to the auditorium. Do you feel that the council is aware, that our new city manager is aware, that our mayor is aware? You talk about spending a buck to make a buck.
Yep.
Return on investment. Do you feel that these individuals are truly aware of how freaking hot the inside of that auditorium can be during spring and summer months? Because I hear, Tom, Raylene hears it too. I remember the old days. We used to have concerts up there, and we used to have this and that, and the farm show. The list goes on.
Yep.
And it was always hot up there, by the way.
Yeah,
They didn't have any of that then either.
Well,
Just
I
saying.
know.
But
I
neither.
know.
But here's
But
the
maybe-
here's the distinction.
But maybe
here's how
if
the
we
world,
had that AC,
Yeah.
we would be able to
keep
have
those people.
But
more
here's how in
events
response to that,
happening.
Raylene, here's how the world changed. They built other venues, and those venues. So yes, in the '60s, in the '70s, well, there really were no venues in Vermont,
Right.
significant venues that had air conditioning and
Yeah.
were comfortable.
Right.
So,
And I know
so
those-
you were all playing. So at least you were competing.
Which
on a
I
level.
totally agree with you, but that's what you hear from
Right.
some. That's the
And-
remark you get from some people. Well, they never had it.
Yeah,
We
I
sweat to
know.
death back then.
It's,
I know. And it's not just about the air conditioning. It's about the bathroom facilities and the electric and the sound system up in the ceiling. It's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So if you look at who we're competing with, we're not really competing with anyone in Central Vermont. So I think if we focus on that facility and we make the necessary improvements, I think you'll see the use of the facility expand exponentially.
Okay.
Because we get, trade shows,
Right.
Trade shows for FW Web and for organizations. I mean, the uses are endless,
Amazing.
but
Yes.
it's got to be comfortable. So, and
Right.
right now it's not. So, the building itself, sometimes you look at buildings, and when you look at rebuild projects, the first thing you have to ask yourself is, number one, is there a return on investment? And is this building even serviceable?
Right.
Some buildings, when they're torn down, because they need to be torn down,
Sure.
they're not serviceable, you need to start over. That's not one of them.
Yeah.
That building is iconic. And when, so many Vermonters have played in the championship basketball games there. It's
Right.
incredible. So many Vermonters have